everybody. Welcome to Let's Talk Weekly. I'm Josie.
And I'm Thomas.
This week, Greg is not with us. They are taking a much needed little resty rest. We love it. Um, Unfortunately, they are missing one of my favorite topics. Money in politics. Wowee. Thomas, I mean, this is a pretty big topic. What are your first initial thoughts?
Um, my first initial thoughts is that America's designed a way to basically make it so that large sums of money is a definition of free speech. And
Mm,
I think that and they've used the term lobbying as a way to cover up what's really going on, which is corruption and bribery and it's just a mess.
yes. In order to explain things a little bit more simply, we're gonna head on over to The Guardian to watch a cute video with AOC, kind of talking about this in a little bit of an overview. So let's start with that, why don't we?
Let's play a game. Let's play a lightning round game. I'm going to be the bad guy, which I'm sure half the room would agree with anyway. And I want to get away with as much bad things as possible, ideally to enrich myself and advance my interest, even if that means putting my interests ahead of the American people. So, if I want to run a campaign that is entirely funded by corporate political action committees, is there anything that legally prevents me from doing that?
No.
So let's say I'm a really, really bad guy, and let's say I have some skeletons in my closet that I need to cover up so that I can get elected. Mr. Smith, is it true that you wrote this article, this opinion piece for the Washington Post entitled, "These payments to women were unseemly, that doesn't mean they were illegal"?
Well, I can't see the piece, but I wrote a piece under that headline in the Post, so I assume that's right.
Okay, great. So, green light for hush money. I can do all sorts of terrible things. It's totally legal right now for me to pay people off. So, I use my special interest dark money funded campaign to pay off folks that I need to pay off and get elected. So, now I'm elected, now I'm in. I've got the power to draft, lobby, and shape the laws that govern the United States of America. Are there any limits on the laws that I can write or influence?
There's no limits.
So there's none. So I can be totally funded by oil and gas. I can be totally funded by Big Pharma, come in, write Big Pharma laws, and there's no limits to that whatsoever.
That's right.
The last thing I want to do is get rich with as little work possible. That's really what I'm trying to do as the bad guy, right? So is there anything preventing me from holding stocks, say, in an oil or gas company, and then writing laws to deregulate that industry and that could potentially cause the stock value to soar and accrue a lot of money in that time?
You could do that.
So I could do that. I could do that now with the way our current laws are set up. Yes?
Yes.
Okay, great. Is it possible that any elements of this story apply to our current government and our current public servants right now?
Yes.
Yes.
So we have a system that is fundamentally broken. We have these influences existing in this body, which means that these influences are here in this committee shaping the questions that are being asked of you all right now. Would you say that that's correct,
Yes.
Mr. Marabani or Mr. Schaub?
Yes. In terms of laws that apply to the president, yeah, there's just almost no laws at all that apply to the president.
So I'm being held, and every person in this body is being held to a higher ethical standard than the President of the United States.
That's right, because there are some ethics committee rules that apply to you.
And it's already super legal, as we've seen, for me to be a pretty bad guy. So it's even easier for the President of the United States to be one, I would assume.
That's right.
So Thomas, what a chuckle. Am I right? What a funny little ditty. That was recorded during the Trump presidency, if I'm not mistaken. And AOC makes it pretty clear that not only can Congress essentially do whatever they want financially, the president even more so. That is fitting to the last
Yeah.
president, you know? Great.
Yeah.
Amazing. What are your initial thoughts following that video? I have so many.
It's not a shock. I mean, a lot of the issues involving financial transparency in the U.S. government. I mean, you could suppose it dates back to 2010 with Citizens United. I would say the real issue we have is that there's no real way of tracking who is donating what and where money is going, because none of it is disclosed. Like it can all be undisclosed. We'll probably go on to this, but there's something that's happening right now with a company called FTX, which has just gone under. A man called Sam. I'm very sorry. Sam Bankman-Fried, who it's come out that he put humongous amounts of donations into the Democratic Party, but he's also done the same with the Republican Party. So he's been donating huge sums of money to both political parties, and it's all been undisclosed. The whole thing's is undisclosed donations to both parties, and it's mind-boggling that people are able to be able to give this much money to people without even it's not even tracked. There's just nothing to track it whatsoever.
Right. So, listeners, viewers, why does this matter? Why does it matter that money is being pumped into both political parties from various locations, various companies, various lobbyists? Why does it matter who is donating to political causes? Well, I think it's pretty simple. I think you probably already know, but to put it in plain terms, people are very influenced by cash money, right? If you have big oil and they don't want you to pass certain types of laws that would restrict their business, for example, environmental, causes, then you would go to your local political party that will be on your side, and you go to your local congressman or whatever, somebody will fight for your cause, and you say, "Hey, I'll give you X amount of dollars, usually in the millions, to fund your political campaign. I'll get you elected." But that is all in the caveat that when you get into Congress, when you become president, et cetera, that you will fight for me, the big guy. You will say, forget the environmental laws. You will write laws on my behalf. You will sneak me into the laws that already exist, that are already on the ballot or whatever. That is what is happening in current politics in America. So it is a big issue. That's a little, fun disclosure. But yes, you are not required to say, "Hey, this person is funding my campaign." And that is sucky because, well, if we know that you're funded by big oil, then we can do something about it. We can hold you accountable, but there is nothing to hold you to account to.
Yeah.
So, I mean, let's go global. Is this an issue, for example, Thomas, in the UK, where you're from?
It is still an issue. I think the unfortunate thing about the United States and the way they've basically been able to do it in a way where they don't even have to do it like almost like behind your back. There's laws in place that allow them to just do it. Whereas in the UK, you can't just openly donate huge sums of money to people without it being tracked. The way they get around it with politicians in the UK is they do it via alternative funding. So, for example, say a politician releases their own book, what they'll do is they'll buy their book like 100,000 times as a way to donate huge sums of money to them indirectly through book sales.
Mm.
of said politician's book release.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just little things like this, so they're able to basically just, instead of it being a direct donation, they can come off and say, well, actually, it's because he made his money because he wrote a book, not because of. But we all know what they're doing,
Right.
really. But yeah, it's just little things like that. I think it is a global problem with corruption, and I think it's unfortunately it's tied to this. It's tied to this problem of we're relying on individuals who represent huge swaths of people to be uncorruptible
Mm-hmm.
in a system that is just ravaged with corruption.
Exactly. I mean, let's pose a scenario, right? This is an idea that I have, and I'd love to hear your opinion on it. It is my belief, it is my desire, my wish, my prayer that people in Congress and the President of the United States, anybody holding any type of political power, significant political power, they should not be allowed to hold stocks, for example. They should not be able to participate in the stock market because they are the ones that are creating laws, right? They are able to influence different parts of the stock market, and they can say, well, my stock's not doing great, so I'm going to go ahead and, you know, make a law that'll make my stock worth more money. And that is totally legal. That is absolutely something that can and unfortunately does happen. So what do you think about that, Thomas? What do you think about my idea?
Well, that was blatant. It was super blatant when Trump was in office still, because you had when they had those COVID meetings. After the COVID meetings, a bunch of sitting senators went out and dumped a bunch of stocks straight after having these meetings. Because they knew before the general public what was going to happen. They knew that things were going to get a little bit they were going to cause effects on the stock market. And so that's just blatant. That's insider trading by another name.
Absolutely.
So you're absolutely right. Politicians, I mean, it should be bare minimum that they shouldn't even be involved in the stock market. One of the issues in my home country is, and I think it's probably an issue here as well, is that sitting people in politics are able to take up second jobs while also being a sitting MP. So they're able to work while also being an MP. I don't know if that's the same thing here. I don't know if that's the same problem. What it leads to is that a lot of these people are thinking about the job after politics. And so there is a lot of corruption also with, people in who have a lot of money, who could give you a lavish salary after you've left politics. There is this, that's why people like, for example, there's a ex politician called Nick Clegg who now works for Facebook, who used to be a Lib Dem politician in the UK. And David Cameron, who used to be Prime Minister of the UK, also got a job with the Guardian and various other outlets. And Boris Johnson, who used to be Prime Minister, also had jobs with the Telegraph. And a lot of these people end up in lavish, well-paid positions because of what they did during their time as politicians. And if we're going to talk about America particularly, the real issue is that, look, I'm on the side of, I fully believe politicians need to be paid well to try and offset some of the corruption, right? Because I understand why people are saying, well, politicians should be paid only what the minimum wage is, like that they're setting for every American. What we really need to tackle is why, in the space of 2 years, a sitting senator can be worth $20 million, right? Which there are a lot of people who get into Congress and they come out to be millionaires in a very short span of time, right? Even though their congressional salary is only like maybe $150,000 a year, right? So there's something else that's going on that's, could be the fact that they do have access to the stock market with privileged information, could be that they're receiving donations undisclosed. There's so much other stuff embedded into not just, the salary that they get, but there's so much undisclosed money that's been thrown around. I think that's the real issue that has to be dealt with.
Absolutely. Just a fun fact for our viewers. I don't know if you have ever participated in a radio show, for example, a radio show contest. And they make sure to make it very apparent that if you or your family member or your homie, anybody close to you, works for the radio station, you are ineligible to participate in the contest, meaning you can't reap the benefits as a result because you could be cheating for all they know. They can't, you could be told when to do this, like you could get tips and tricks and all this stuff to win this contest. So you're not allowed to participate if you have a close person to you that works for the radio station. So why is it that in politics that same principle does not apply, especially when it comes to the president of the United States? I mean, we saw via the Trump family just how much they were willing to use their power and influence to get that cash money. I mean, Jared Kushner is the perfect example, don't you think, Thomas?
Well, yeah, and also, I mean, the fact that that you're supposed to be, when you become president, you're supposedly forced to separate your private industry with your public self, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what we saw during the Trump presidency was it taken to the utmost extreme of what you could do and get away with. The fact that Trump was purposely having presidential meetings at his own private properties so he could charge Secret Service agents with hotel fees just to bolster his hotel business. It's just little things like that, and I think the fact that there was nothing that was done about that. Like even after he left office, there was nothing put in place to stop that from ever happening again. It's just little things like that where you can just do what you want, even though there's like a morality clause attached to the office. Like it doesn't stop anyone from not doing it.
Exactly.
And that's the problem. I mean, we point to Trump, but look at Barack Obama after he's left office and the amount of money and the amount of deals that he's been thrown his way from the entertainment industry. I'm not saying you can't make money, but there comes a point where it's quite obvious that huge swaths of money, the fact that you could be given this because of what you did during your time in office after the fact is a problem, and it will sway people's policy and agenda in a way that they might not do if that wasn't the case.
Right. I mean, the perfect example right now is environmental infrastructure. It is pretty much stalled. We're having a huge hard time passing bills that, will create sustainable energy, technology that already exists and that with the right amount of investments can be up and running in a very short amount of time relatively. And because of big oil, big coal, big energy, all of these industries are really lobbying and putting tons and tons of money into not allowing this to happen, right? They're essentially buying off parts of Congress and saying, I mean, like Joe Manchin would say, well, West Virginia is all coal and I got to protect the coal miners. And sure, you want people to have jobs, but at the cost of the entire world's environment, I don't know, like we could retrain people. I mean, this is all old, adages, but this is, it has not only just like oh yeah, they make a lot of money and that feels icky. The environment is a pretty big deal.
Well, and you point to Joe Manchin. Joe Manchin's a prime example of, his family comes from fossil fuels.
Mm,
His daughter, from what I gather, is involved in EpiPens, and he's also been lobbying for limits on how much you can sell EpiPens for. To not happen because
hmm
it wouldn't benefit his daughter. And so people like Joe Manchin are direct examples of, they're there because they're there to look out for the interests of people that own, that are damaging not just the environment, but they're also damaging Americans' livelihoods on a grand scale, just because of who they represent. And kind of going in a circle, but it comes back to the fact that America's decided since 2010 that money is free speech, and that is Citizens United. And I think the very first thing the US should be doing in order to sort of curtail this epic corruption that's happening in politics is rescinding Citizens United and passing some sort of, I believe it's called Disclose Act,
mm.
which at least will prevent undisclosed fees from or donations happening without people's knowledge, or we have no idea where money's going or who's donating what. And I think the prime example, like I said, right now is with this FTX. Sam Freeman is a prime example of, is anything going to happen to this person who, in an industry overnight, has gone bankrupt? People have lost millions and millions of dollars, but both parties are now complicit in a company that has donated hundreds and hundreds of, if not millions of dollars to both parties. So it's just a big heap of, corruption.
Absolutely. And unfortunately, there's no end in sight, friends. But we can, unfortunately, continue to do the investigative work that should be done by, all sorts of media outlets. We can ask the questions, we can demand change, we can demand for our senators and congresspeople to push for a disclosure act. Um, yeah, unfortunately, money talks way too big. I mean, even in the justice system, right? We are essentially fucked, but we can always try.
I, you know, I, you know, we're sort of up in now in what could be done. What it really points to is, like I said before, is that we're relying on individuals to basically look after or look into the interests of millions of people. And I think one of the ways that we should be bypassing this, which has been successful, is ballot initiatives where they've completely overrided what represent. It just overrides representatives' power. So things like Florida getting a $15 minimum wage was a ballot initiative. Things like Oregon decriminalizing all drugs was a ballot initiative. I think that's one way of just completely overriding this inept, corrupt system that we have with representatives in politics.
Amen. There you go, friends. We don't bitch without solutions here. We try to give you at least a little bit of hope. Well, that is it for our heavy segment, or, the show, the political part of the show. And now we're going to move on to the relief, the comedic stylings of Thomas and Josie. Friends, this week we're gonna do it. We're gonna get into it. I'm so sorry. Everybody's so tired, but I am so invested. I am. I can't get over it. Friends, we're talking about Kanye frickin' West, or Ye, as he is preferring to be called. And his not only his bid for, the presidency yet again, which, as a left-leaning individual, I'm very for. Let the idiots vote for Trump and Kanye at the same time, split the vote. That's great. Kanye West has gone on to InfoWars this week with good old Alex Jones, and Alex Jones had to be the voice of reason. Who knew that this day would come? Because Mr. Kanye West said, you know, I like Hitler. Oh!
You when Alex Jones of all people is basically, saying that you've taken it a little bit too far, or like the guy who declared Sandy Hook to be a false flag, like
Yes, and Kanye West has been banned from Twitter yet again, suspended, I should say. Yes, not even Mr. Elon Musk could keep his word on that. Yeah, I mean, I told you so, and we all told you so, Elon. Gosh, yeah, he's kind of off the deep end, and unfortunately, bipolar does do that to a person, so I'm not a complete monster. I have some sympathy, some, very little. But I mean, what do you think? What do you think is gonna happen, Thomas?
I just, what I loved about all of this was that people, conservatives, were just saying, wow, Kanye's building a really good team. This could be a real contender for 2024. And I'm just like, in the span of 2 weeks, it just the it's just complete. It's just fallen apart. The whole thing's fallen apart in span of 2 weeks. And I just find it hilarious that people were really like, they must have been in another completely different dimension to think that this is the team. This Nick Fuentes and Milo, but people who have just been completely ostracized from the political spectrum. Like wow.
Yeah, I don't discriminate. I'm all for people with mental health issues being eligible for the presidency. We're all a little broken, I get it. But I think I'm officially against people who refuse to take their medication becoming president. I think that's going to be the stance that I now take thanks to Kanye West. And I say that with having taken care of somebody in deep mania, I know what it's like. And yeah, I would not want my loved one to have been president while in mania. So,
I think the funniest one I saw was Bill Burr. I saw a skit for Bill Burr did a stand up,
oh,
and where
yes.
he basically said if you put Kanye's ego in a white man, he would basically be Adolf Hitler, and that's aged like fine wine.
Fine wine. Bill Burr. Yes, yes, yes. The conservatives love him and the liberals do too. Yeah, he bipartisan that one. Good job, Bill. You did it. You have the Lord's gift of prophecy. Hallelujah. As Kanye West would say. All right, friends, we're not going to torture you anymore with the antics of this amazing artist.
We're definitely the worst timeline.
Yeah. Yes, I am having fun with it, having fun with the tragedy. I'm a masochist after all. So, well, friends, once again, this is Let's Talk Weekly. I'm Josie,
And I'm Thomas.
and we will catch you next week with more hard-hitting politics. Bye, friends.
Goodbye.